I'm one of the happiest men on planet Earth, man. Because I see a lot of people around me. A lot of people around me that we are changing their lives. I want to be remembered, as a great human being. Somebody that was treating people properly, honest, transparent. I gotta do my signature claim, which is, ¡Vamos!
Known as the quintessential jet setter when it comes to spreading the gospel of paddle, Marcus del Pilar. Where do we start? He's a paddle consultant with USTA, co-founder of Pro Paddle League, formerly the CEO and commissioner of that league. Speaker, he's a consultant. He is a master teacher, gives a master class in terms of clinics in doing everything to grow the game of paddle in the United States, North America, and beyond. He joins me. I'm Bryan Fenley. This is the Sports Media with a Human Touch podcast. Marcos, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Brian. Total pleasure, man. I'm super excited, and thank you for giving me the space.
How many different flights have you been on spreading the good word of gospel this year already?
In what sense? What do you mean?
How much traveling have you done?
Oh my God. I don't, I don't even know where I live. I know where I pay my rent, and it's Orlando, Florida. I'm very proud to live here in Lake Nona, but I'm traveling a lot. Like paddle is finally booming in the United States and beyond, which is something that I've been actively working really, really hard for the last 10 years. And, thanks God, that I have, a very powerful network with different groups that I'm working with, and they have some needs, and they are requesting me to go help them. In addition to that, obviously, the great, job that we are doing with the paddle certification within the RSPA is taking a little bit of my time and dedication and love. And, I'm traveling. I'm taking planes every week, like 2 or 3 different cities every week.
You're so enthusiastic about this. Where does that charisma come from?
Well, I think that it's a very intrinsic motivation, man. I think that energy is your currency. It's part of the lessons that I learned along the way, and I'm lucky enough to have this love for the sport as the very first day. I really love what I do. Like every morning I feel blessed. For the mission in life that I have. I think that I really want to build a better world through paddle, and I'm on my way. I'm on my mission. Like creating opportunities for people, helping others to succeed. And helping the sport to grow. And this is what is getting me excited every day, man. I'm happy, and I enjoy the people that I have around and the partners that I have. So I have no complaints, man. I feel blessed.
Where is the end goal of this? Because there's always the push for more and more growth, and that never ends. But for you, not to say you would ever be satisfied, because there's always that desire to grow the game even more. But what are you pushing for here with paddle and what you can do?
I I don't really know, Brian, to be honest. I don't really know. For me, it's not a competition against anyone else. It's a competition within myself. I really want to be a better person. I really want to be a better version of me every day. And I don't really know what the goal is. Like when I first came to the US kind of 10 years ago, I had a crystal clear vision, like, hey, I wanted to spread the word, of paddle. I wanted to open opportunities for people. I wanted to open facilities. I wanted to get the American institutions involved. I wanted to partner with venture capitals and investment groups, to make this massive, and somehow, make paddle, a mainstream sport, in the United States. I think we are, the way that I usually explain is like all these steps, in every venture, which is creation, critique, and crusade mode, right? I think the creation side, it was probably the 10 years that I spent, like building, this map of alliances, working with different groups, and just start building infrastructure. The critique mode, is the moment that we are actually living. I think, like we're actually we need to make some more steps to get into the crusade mode, where actually is going to be nonstop. I think there's no way back. I think we overpassed the tipping point, as I said, many times in my conferences and so on. And now we are crusade. Is full gas. Supporting some of the biggest groups in the world, just to execute properly, to become profitable, and to make paddle massive. At the very end of the day, I have this vision of making paddle, as I said, a mainstream sport in the US, and making it accessible for everybody, and hopefully getting into the Olympics. Vamos!
How close are we from that happening in 2032 in Brisbane?
Well, it's probably, it's more work, connected with the International Padel Federation. I know that, they are moving pieces and working really hard on that. I think our job, is on the ground stroke level, is being, on the grassroots, like just developing the massive, approach and making it accessible to get to the goal, like 10 to 12 million players, at least in the US in the coming years. And obviously, like creating more exposure for the sport, in the rest of the world as well. I think we are getting closer. We are making big steps. International Padel Federation is doing a great job on that end. Within the USPA, of course, coming from the United States, and we'll see, man. We'll see. All of us, are putting our hearts and our vision on that, because that could actually change the entire map of the sport. I think there are three things, in my personal opinion, that were making, a big move in the sport. One is paddle, becoming a sport in the country clubs in America and getting into that market. I think we are already accomplishing that, like more and more country clubs, and historical clubs, Philadelphia, like I just came back from North Carolina last week. Like some of the most important country clubs are adopting the sport, and including that as part of the offering. The second big step for me is NCAA's. We gotta keep pushing, for getting paddle, into the college, sport, NCAA's and so on, and obviously the Olympics. When these three things, will be happening, our entire world will be changing, big time for all of us.
With your background in tennis as well, when you see really good tennis players pick up paddle, what skills are more transferable than others? Like, oh, this is new for them, or hey, they got this down pretty easily.
Well, I mean, every single player of racket sports, has developed already this kind of timing, the distance, it's true that the size of the racket is a little bit different, but they have, kind of the distance, the timing, and the pace, to hit, on the sweet spot all the time. Obviously, we got to change a couple of things. We don't play with any loops in paddle. We need to teach them actually how to decelerate, and how to start building points, from back to front, instead of just looking for the winners. I usually say that in tennis, you look for the space, to hit the winner. And in paddle, you look for the space to get the ball that will give you an opportunity to hit the winner later on, right? But I mean, it's an easy, crossover. I think that for whoever is interested in any other racket sport, the transition into paddle is almost automatic and very organic. So, all aspects, the footwork as well, like the extension on all the shots, I think many things, coming from tennis can be used for paddle too.
You said it, and I agree with you. It's not a competition about paddle on the verge of trying to surpass other sports and taking on other sports. But what would it take in North America for paddle to surpass tennis?
I don't want to surpass anyone, Brian. I don't want to create a conflict. I love tennis, man. I love tennis. I grew up playing tennis. I think that tennis, made me become, the person that I am. After that, I adopted padel. I'm very proud to keep playing both. Every once in a while, I'll also play a little bit of pickleball. It's not my favorite, in total honesty, but I'm happy, with all racket sports. I don't want to once again create this competition in between tennis and padel. I think when I was talking, to the big institutions back in the years, I was always telling them like, hey, I'm happy to be the little brother, right? Like padel being the little brother, with 10, 15 million people playing in America, and tennis keep growing and maybe, getting into 25, 30 million players as well, I would be happy, At the end of the day, it's just a matter of improving the offering, like, and giving, your members, your people, the accessibility, to different opportunities, bringing excitement, like, it's been said that memorable brands, are not selling any product, right? Are just simply selling emotions, right? And this is something that I use a lot, in my conferences, certifications, and so on. It's just a matter of creating spaces, to provide memorable moments. I think we are living the industry of emotions and hospitality. The way that I see paddle is actually that, is emotions and hospitality with a racket in your hand doing something that you seem to marvel, right? So I have fun. Everybody have fun, right? As long as you are taking care of the customer journey and pulling the emotional triggers and using, that environment on your own benefit, everything is done. And in this case, I think the coaching side, that's why I am very involved, on the certification within the RSPA, because I think that if the courts are the engine of the sport, the coaches are the fuel of the industry, right? The way that we all deliver on the court, the way that we start attracting people and work on engagement, and retention for them is changing the roots, and the direction of the sport. We gotta be better, delivering, our product and our emotions, and creating a better hospitality product. That's all.
You kind of answered my question because I was going to ask you when you're talking to schools of people who are aware of what paddle is, but they need some convincing. When you're going to these seminars and you're a consultant and you're meeting with new clubs about wanting to bring paddle to these environments, what is it that is the easiest thing to convince them to say, hey, we want to add this, or hey, I want to start watching this? How much do you tap into those emotions you're talking about as the key convincing point to get people to sign on and be good with paddle and want to try it and entrust you in seeing where this takes them in their own journeys?
Well, I think you nailed that, and I, for whatever is the reason, I don't want to brag, Brian, but I seem to have a very, very strong talent, on transmitting, and connecting with people, and making them feel, what I feel. I think I'm very powerful, on emotional intelligence as well. I cannot kind of understand, the way that people are feeling, but people tend to believe, like, hey, it's just a matter of vibe, like the way that I'm living, is creating, a big path, for willing, to be part of the show, right? I usually say that the magic of paddle, or Let's Dance, the music of paddle too, right? So it's way beyond than just hitting some balls on a court. The court itself is fantastic, right? But I think the beauty of that is coming, from the environment. That this saying that you will never be remembered, for the way that you are teaching the forehand or the backhand, but you will be remembered for the way that you are making people feel, right? So this is it. I jump into a paddle court and I just simply speak about paddle, man, and I think that people can actually feel that, like, hey, it's true what I'm saying, because I've spent, my entire life doing this, building businesses, for venture capitals and investment groups, becoming ultra successful, to be honest, and doing that on a serial way. I've been doing this and building businesses and building, like new ventures connected to paddle, always success after success, right? So why shouldn't I be, so safe, and so confident on what I'm doing, I think people sometimes confuse, like being humble, with it. Being humble actually is not in opposition with being the best, or similar, like, hey, being the best is that you are offering your very best version, that you are, like improving every day, that you are willing to do your best and to give others, kind of the best version of you, right? But at the same time, you can be humble, willing to open, ready with this beginner's mentality and so on. So I'm pretty good on what I do, right? And my historical, like lineup of successes, speak by themselves. So I think that people tend to believe because actually, is a reality. You can see, what happened in the last years, and also because you have the vision of what can happen, in the years ahead. If that makes sense.
It does make sense. People gravitate towards you because you do what you say and you've built up this great resume. And when it comes to seeing visions of what you want, your ambitions, What does it feel like when you start to see that stuff play out and work out, where that which you're planning, that which you're working on is beginning to come across to other people? How does that resonate with you when you start to see that happening?
Listen, that's probably one of the reasons, that I'm one of the happiest men on planet Earth, man. Because I see a lot of people around me, a lot of people around me that we are changing their lives. They are improving, they are making money that they never thought that they could make. They are achieving their goals, they are accomplishing, what they dreamt. They are changing their lives, being happier, enjoying life, building relationships. That's part of my legacy. I think way beyond the business, and becoming successful and so on, and investing in projects and being part of new things and being disruptive and being innovative, and try to improve myself because I love being challenged, to be honest. I think I get bored really quickly, when I'm a creator. The way that I see myself is a creator. I love jumping into new things, developing new things, being disruptive, creating, and after that, putting everything in place, and jumping into another thing, right? So when you do this, and you put other people in successful situations and they are enjoying life and they come back to you saying, Marcos, you changed my life, bro. Like everything that you told me is happening the way you told me, and you opened these opportunities for me and you helped me so much, man. And I'll always have you in my heart for creating this opportunity for me, and I will never forget you, man. I could be crying every day, because I'm living this situation like almost every week, and I'm very proud of that, to be honest, way beyond the success on business. I think I want to be remembered, as a great human being, somebody that was treating people properly, honest, transparent, like service, Um, I think kind of serving others is the rent that we pay, for getting our spot on planet Earth, right? So this is part of my legacy. I want to help people. I want to help others. And that's it.
I wanted to get out of this conversation what really was the driving force behind what you do, and I see it played out in terms of the relationships, the impact that you can have on people, the life-changing aspect of what you can share with others, and then to see that, can't even put into words how gratifying that must be for you. You talked about the constant desire to challenge yourself, which makes you so good at what you do. You also mentioned how it's not about competition or what this sport looks like up against other sports, because rightly so, you have an enjoyment of a lot of different racket sports and you've spent lots of time with them. Where do you then find the thrill of competing against yourself in this mission and what that might look like? Because the competitor you are on the court has to come out somewhere, Marcos, in some aspect of what you're doing.
Well, you know what? I'm not competitive anymore. I had some conversations with Kate lately, and she's ultra competitive, and she wants to win all the time. And I don't have that competitive, feeling on the court anymore. But I have like three big mantras, that are connected with myself and the business that I create and implement. One is customer obsession, man. The first one is customer obsession, and it's not just about understanding what customers want, but also about predicting, what their needs are even before they know that. Like this is something, developing customer journeys is something that is getting me very, very intrigued. The second one I would say is operational excellence. I think that all internal processes gotta be absolutely, like bulletproof, and we have examples, like with the best companies in the world that are doing this, like Amazon, on Apple or something like that. And the third one is continuous innovation. So continuous innovation is what people are probably missing, because it's not only innovation, in products, is being innovative, in business models, in customer experience, internal processes, everything. And when you nail these three principles, that is what is actually making the difference. It's all about executing these principles daily, with the right measures, getting some metrics and trying to adapt faster than others. If you do these three things, like I mean, that is what is getting you in a good spot to dominate the market. So that is probably what I have in my brain all the time. When building, new projects and working with different groups is my mantra. This is the direction that I'm always taking.
Along the lines of what you said, and speaking of dominating, paddle from a broadcasting standpoint in the Middle East, in South America, in so many other regions of the country, paddle is dominating. In the United States, what would it take for paddle to become a mainstream TV watching experience for the American public? And how close could we be to that happening?
Well, I think we still gotta do, a couple of things. Probably, like is make, a stronger infrastructure, which is something that we are actively working on. I work with strong groups, building, a big inventory of courts all over the country. I think we all need to develop, professional pathways, because this is important, to get people inspired, to get them, into a mission, and a long-term career, and also probably combining grassroots development with high-level competition, because this has proven, to be very, very successful in accelerating, the sports growth in other countries and in other markets too. So probably these three things. Obviously, what I said before, including NCAAs, like getting country clubs involved as well, and creating very successful business models. When we are working with groups, it's not a matter of just building courts. What I'm always repeating is the way that you manage that, because building courts actually is kind of easy. Creating a concept, which is my main goal in here. My main asset, is creating a concept, adapting to new audiences, and understanding that audience to offer them what they are craving, right? This is what I think I'm very good at, right? But after that is management. So building courts, is not difficult. What is actually difficult is making profitable businesses, right? And with a couple of good business models, obviously the acceleration of the sport is going to come along, like even faster.
With the acceleration, how much is that due to grabbing on and getting more people to be coaches and to then be that conduit to where you're now bridging the gap between executive and interested player, and you've got a coach who then can share that love and then be on that grassroots level of getting more people out to those courts?
The role, of coach developers, is my role on that, once again, is more connected with my own legacy, for the sport. I want to give back, to the sport, what the sport is actually giving me every day, right? But I think that we are building a very strong foundation for the future of paddle, right? So by training and mentoring coaches, I think I'm ensuring a very consistent and high quality instruction that elevates, the player development at all levels, and establishing, kind of an standardized coaching methodology and creating professional, growth pathways, for all these coaches and players, is probably helping, to scale the sport, big time, and bringing new players. Because if we are providing, a better experience, for all these people that are coming, all these newcomers, we can make them, become organic, advocates, and they are becoming, recurrent customers. The rest is history. This is actually what we need to do, making people happy on the court. And this is something that you seem to marvel. This is something that is making you happy, man. There's no reason for not making everybody else happy too.
In closing, speaking of making you happy, I want to ask this as my final question.
Oh
I'm
my
not
God, I'm getting ready now.
ready,
Oh my
ready.
God.
Yeah, you better be on the edge of your seat. I'm not saying if, I'm saying when. I'm sending good vibes out there for 2032 about paddle in the Olympics. When it is announced that paddle is going to be part of the Olympics, how are you going to show that happiness, and what is it going to be like for you in that moment?
Based on my research, it gotta be announced 7 years before this is happening. So we are by the end of 2025. So I don't really know, but it doesn't really matter when. I'm sure that it will happen. the Olympics will make all of us, explode in all levels, because getting paddle is creating this final pathway, for people to have, a big reason, to compete and to get involved. I think it's already happening, right? In the rest of the world, in America, we are still a little bit latent on this because we don't have NCAAs and, a clear pathway. But I think, I don't know the way that I live that. I try to be present, every day. I'm not waiting for anything big to happen. I'm the one that is creating, the big moments to celebrate, right? So I'm very grateful, of the life that I have. I'm very grateful for the people that I have around. I'm very grateful for having these opportunities to talk to nice people, and spread my love, and what I do. I'm very grateful, for the partners that I have and receiving calls, every week or every day, to get involved in new projects. I couldn't ask for more, man. I just get up, look up and say, hey, God, thank you for what you are giving me. I think I'm putting my piece in here as well, because nothing comes for granted. You got to be the one that is giving in advance. You got to be generous, and try to make an impact in the world for the world to pay you back, making a big impact on you, right? So I'm doing my job, and let's see, one step at a time. I'm focused on some projects that I have now, and my personal life too, is something that is important, to be honest. Like, I really wanna spend quality time with people that I love, that I have around, and spend more time with my friends, my girlfriend, and building a family. Who knows, like all these things, taking care of my mom, small things, man, but that are big for me. I don't know for other people, but I'm living, every day very, very present, and just letting the universe operate for me. You know this thing that, where it's been said that when life or the world, is giving you something, the world or the universe is giving you direction. And when the world or the universe is preventing you to something, or deleting something from your path, is actually protecting you. So I just let the universe, to operate, man. I'm happy here, and just, having a good vibe all the time, and let the universe operate. But please let me operate with a paddle racket in my hand.
I wouldn't be surprised if you went to sleep with a paddle racket in your hand and you woke up with one. But words to live by, so many good things there to mention there to close things out. Passionate and a man who is an inspiration to all of us. And what a big heart you have as well, just to see how much you're tailor made for the human impact and having that being such a driving influence on others, seeing how people react to the sport, wanting to give back, all of these things that you're doing. I have no idea how you fit all this in your schedule, but he is. First and foremost, the godfather of paddle in the United States. It is Marcos Del Pilar, fresh off an airplane here on the Sports Media with a Human Touch podcast. I'm Bryan Fenley. Marcos, thank you so much for dispensing all this great knowledge and sharing with us the role and the work you are doing that is on the front lines of a growing, emerging sport in the United States.
Thank you very much, Brian. And before I leave, I gotta do my signature claim, which is, ¡Vamos!